What's up YouTube, it's your boy Nash here, welcome back to the channel, and today I have an updated Sacred Beast deck profile for you guys. Now, I actually did a complete 180 on this deck, made a couple changes to the main deck. The extra deck is about the same. I didn't really do a whole lot to the extra deck. I think it just like took out like maybe one or two cards, and that was basically it. So the extra deck is about the same. The side deck is pretty much exactly the same as well. And what I find so cool about this version of the deck is that is the fact that this deck, a lot of people might not see this deck as a meta contender, but truth be told, if it gets more support in the future, which is bound to happen, I can definitely see this deck becoming a meta contender. So again, I did do a complete 180 on this deck. The extra deck didn't really do a whole lot. The extra deck I completely did a 180 on this deck as well. But before we get into the deck profile, guys, we are 36 subs away from 200, and as I have said in previous videos, if this channel gets to 200 subs, I will open up this Korean Strike of Neos booster box in its entirety on the channel, on the hopes to potentially pull this guy, Elemental Hero Air Neos, in which, if we pull one, I am probably gonna get it greeted. Possibly. If this channel gets to 500 subs, I will open up this Korean LOB booster box in its entirety on the channel, on the hopes of potentially pull the Blue Eyes White Dragon, the Dark Magician, maybe a piece of Exodia, who the hell knows. However, if the channel gets to 1,000 subs, I will open up this first edition Toon Chaos box in its entirety on the channel, on the hopes to potentially pull my second ever collector's rare, because if you guys remember my Genesis Impact box, you guys see it. A collector's rare Beat Cop from the Underworld. Look at that, guys. Absolutely gorgeous. That is beautiful. So if you guys want to see these boxes get opened, maybe you guys want more deck profiles in the future, maybe you guys want episodes of WWE's Biggest Issue, maybe you guys want episodes of Yu-Gi-Oh's Biggest Issue, or maybe perhaps you want some premium live event predictions and results. Well, if you guys want all of that and more, my channel is the place to be. So if you guys have not done so already, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, follow me on all of my social media. My ads will be in the description below, including my Instagram, because I always post the deck lists on my Instagram. So if you guys haven't done so already, follow me there. My ads will be in the description below, as will the info to my fan mail. If you guys want to send me fan mail, all the info will be in the description as well. So let's kick off this deck profile with a single copy of all three Sacred Beasts: Haman, Lord of Striking Thunder, Raviel, Lord of Phantasms, and Uriah, Lord of Soaring Flames. Out of all three, obviously Raviel and Haman are gonna be the only three cards you're gonna the only two cards that you're gonna summon out of all three Sacred Beasts, because with Uriah you need to have 3 continuous traps on board, and aside from the 3 Awakening of the Sacred Beasts that's in the main, the only 2 that's in the side are the 2 copies of Zhang Zhang Hu, which again it's an old school floodgate, but it's a really good floodgate. So again, Raviel and Haman are gonna be 2 of the only cards you're gonna summon. And what I find even more interesting about Haman is that if you pair off Haman's damage effect with Mounds of the Battle Creator's effect, you'll be dealing your opponent triple damage, battle damage plus 1,000 damage to your opponent off of Hamon's effect, plus another 1,000 to your opponent off of the effects of Mounds of the Battle Creator, which is actually pretty cool. Pretty cool. There are no rank 10s in this one because well, you guys will see. You guys will see once we get into the extra deck. So again, one of all three copies, one of all three Sacred Beasts. We have 2 copies of Dark Summoning Beast. Obviously, all you do is you tribute this off, summon a Sacred Beast from the hand or deck, and you're off to the races there. From there, the only downside is that you're not allowed to commit to the battle phase, which is fine. Which is fine if you summon Dark Summoning Beast turn 1 and you summon Hamon or Raviel. Then obviously yes, it wouldn't be much of a it wouldn't be that much of a factor because there's no battle phase. But if you go second and you do summon Dark Summoning Beast, obviously you're gonna end up locking yourself out of the battle phase. But as long as you make your board using Hamon and Raviel, pair it off with any like 2 or 3 of your extra deck monsters, you're pretty much just good to go. You're pretty much good to go from there. Next up, we have 3 copies of Dark Beckoning Beast, which basically acts as a double summon. So if you guys have never seen Dark Beckoning Beast before, this was in the Sacred Beast structure deck actually. So upon normal summon, you're allowed to add any of the 3 Sacred Beasts or a card that mentions it in its text, and you're allowed to commit to a second normal summon during that turn. In which case, if you do search Raviel or Hamon off of the effect of Dark Beckoning Beast, and you activate a card like say Opening of the Spirit Gates, which would let you add Chaos Summoning Beast, which I'm running 2 copies of, spoiler, then you would normal summon Chaos Summoning Beast, tribute it off, summon Raviel or Hamon, and you're off to the races there. Another thing as well about Chaos Summoning Beast is its other effect, where if you don't have a way to get to Fallen Paradise, then Chaos Summoning Beast basically acts as a terraforming, where you banish it from your graveyard, and you can add Fallen Paradise to your hand, activate it, and then you essentially have a continuous Pot of Greed, which again you draw 2 cards if you have one or all 3 Sacred Beasts on board. So again, 3 Dark Beckoning Beasts, 2 Chaos Summoning Beasts. And the reason why I chose to do 2 Chaos Summoning Beasts instead of 3 is because of 2 reasons. Number one is the fact that you don't want to brick on Fallen Paradise for the most part, because aside from Fallen Paradise, which is obviously a draw card, the only other draw cards the only like draw or search cards that are in this deck are the Dark Beckoning Beasts, the Spirit Gates, the Pot of Avarice, as well as the Danger Package, which I'm gonna get to here in a second. So again, you don't want to overcommit to having multiple copies of Chaos Summoning Beast in the deck. That's why I chose to run 2s, because it does act as a terraforming, but you don't want to see multiple copies of Fallen Paradise in your hands, because again, it'll be a brick. And the second reason, I needed to make some room for this big ass Danger Package that I got going on. So for my Danger Package, I got two Bigfoot, 2 Thunderbird, 2 Dogman, 2 Dogman, and 1 Tsuchinoko. Bigfoot's effect upon being discarded, you can target a face-up card, your opponent controls, and destroy it. Thunderbird targets face down cards and destroys them. Dogman has a very interesting effect where upon being discarded, you can have all face-up monsters your opponent controls lose 1,000 attack, which is not bad. It does allow you to overpower your opponent and potentially push for game, but there are no rank 7s in this deck. In fact, there are only 2 rank 8s. There's a rank 6. Actually, sorry, 3 rank 8s, a rank 9, a rank 5, a rank 6, and a rank 12, which I think you could probably tell what that rank 12 is. And then Tsuchinoko just acts as a monster reborn, which is pretty cool. It's funny that this card's at 1, given the fact that even at 1, you can still put it back into your deck off the effects of a Pot of Avarice, which is pretty funny. And then for my hand traps, I've got 2 copies of Ash Blossom and 2 copies of Ghost Bell, because, well, they pair off so well with one another, which is pretty cool. For my spells, for the 1-ofs, I have a Harpy's Feather Duster, I have a Monster Reborn, I have a Call By, which obviously, again, I still think this card should come up to at least 2, and just call it a day. Because Call By at 2 would have made a lot more sense than at 1. That's just how I see it, anyway. That's how I see it. Then we got Dimension Fusion Destruction, which can help go into Armor Tile, the Chaos Phantom, or it can also help you go into Phantom of Fury, which, for the most part, you're going to probably end up going into the original Armor Tile, but you're not really going into Armor Tile, so this is basically a brick. So Fusion Destruction is just basically a brick. That's all it is. It's just a brick. Then we got Rank Up Magic Numeron Force. Why? Simple. Because I've got number 107 in the extra deck, as well as its Chaos form, Neo Galaxy Eyes Tachyon Dragon, and not only that, Numeron Force also acts as a Dark Ruler no more. So if Neo Tachyon Dragon is the only monster on board, on your side of the board, that means Numeron Force is basically a one-sided Dark Ruler no more, and you can just combo off from there, which is absolutely insane. Then we have 2 copies of Cerulean Skyfire. Now, I'm gonna tell you guys something that I did not know. I was testing this deck out on Nexus, which is where I always test out all of my decks for the most part. And I found something, and I found out something very interesting. This card, Cerulean Skyfire, can actually negate counter traps. I actually found that out. I was testing it against the bots, the bots, the AI bots, and it was playing a frog deck that utilizes only 3 copies of 3 different traps. Gravity Bind, Froggy Force Field, and the Huge Revolution is over. My opponent, obviously the bot would use Huge Revolution on a card like, say, Harpy's Feather Duster. Cerulean Skyfire can negate Huge Revolution by switching Hamon into defense position, and the effect is negated. So this card is absolutely insane. That's why I decided to bump it up to 2. Is because of that fact. It's because it acts as a counter spell card, I guess you could say, which is pretty cool. The question is, could it possibly negate other counter traps in the game? It's very possible. I haven't tested it out completely yet, or rather it's not that. It's more the fact that I'm not sure. I think it does. I think it does, but still, that's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool effect. That's why I decided to bump it up to 2. And speaking of 2, we have 2 copies of Pot of Avarice. I know that 2 might be a brick, but because of the fact that you're going to be using your dangers to practically discard all of your monsters, Pot of Avarice is in here to ensure that you still have card advantage over your opponent, and not only that, if you have your Sacred Beast in your graveyard, you can push them back into your deck, draw 2, and if one of them is a Dimension Fusion Destruction, you can just banish them. You can just banish them. And just go from there. But and just go from there, which is pretty cool. But I realized that fusion destruction, you have to have the Sacred Beast in the hand, on the field, or in the graveyard. So it's possible, but still, again, it is a simple draw 2, which is pretty cool. Then we got 3 copies of Opening of the Spirit Gates, which is basically the Sacred Beast version of Dark Magical Circle, except that you can search out for any card that mentions the Sacred Beast in their name, in their text, or you can add one of the Sacred Beasts themselves, which is pretty cool. Then, of course, we've got Fallen Paradise, which again not only acts as a Pot of Greed, but you can also, as well, prevent your Sacred Beast from being destroyed by card effects, while you control the Sacred Beast. So even cards like Mirror Force and Froggy Force Field and what in the like, none of those cards can destroy your Sacred Beasts while you have Fallen Paradise on board. And it's the same thing with this last spell in the main deck. 2 copies of Mound of the Bound Creator. Not only does Mound prevent your level 10 monsters from, protect them from being destroyed by battle. It all not by battle, but by card effects. It also prevents them from being targeted as well, which makes this card even more powerful because of the fact that the Sacred Beasts are level 10. And another thing as well with Spirit Gates is that you can discard a card, special summon like a card like, say, Chaos Summoning Beast, and then you can just link it plus let's say Dark Beckoning Beast in the like into a card like say Nightmare Phoenix or even Nightmare Cerberus to just overpower the opponent, and then just link climb into a card like say Axis Code Talker in the like, and you can just go from there, which is actually kind of cool. It's actually pretty cool in my honest opinion. So with that being said, moving on into the traps. For the traps, I've got 2 copies of Waking the Dragon, which can basically help you go into a card like, say, Psychic End Punisher, which I have in the extra deck, as well as a Cyber Dragon Infinity, which I also have in the extra deck as well, which is absolutely insane. And not only that, there's another card as well that you can also use to that you can also use as a Waking the Dragon target, and it's also as well number 38, Hope Harbinger Dragon Titanic Galaxy, which again, you basically have a what you call it, a way to just get enough materials on there for one card in particular, and I think you can take a guess of what that card is. Speaking of traps, we have 3 copies of Awakening of the Sacred Beast. If you have all 3 Sacred Beasts on board, plus all 3 copies of Awakening on board, dude, you're gonna have quite the board, because Awakening of the Sacred Beast has effects based on how many Sacred Beasts are on board. So if you have one, every time your opponent were to normal or special summon a monster, you actually gain life points equal to that monster's attack, which is absolutely nuts. So the life points that you can gain per turn can go as high as you want, and you can just overpower your opponent that way, which is nuts. If you have 2 Sacred Beasts on board, not only would you be able to use the first effect, but the second effect you can also use as well, which reads negate the activated effect of monsters your opponent controls, which again it's basically imperm in a continuous trap, which is nuts. But if you have all 3, any monsters sent to your opponent's grave are banished instead. So this is basically Macrocosmos on steroids. That's how good this card is. Excuse me. It's a Macrocosmos on steroids, and Macrocosmos is still viable is still playable in the meta. In today's meta, it's still being played to this day. One thing I've found so interesting though is that Awakening is just it's just that damn good. There's not much else to say about that. And then to round up the entire main deck, we have 2 copies of Solemn Warning, just so we don't get our opponent, just so we don't let our opponent commit to their board, which is pretty nuts. The extra deck is about the same. Is about the same. We have an Armortal the Chaos Phantom, and a Armortal the Chaos Phantom of Fury, which are only in here as a last resort to push for game, but for the most part, you're not really going to be going into them, to be honest. Then we've got Psychic and Punisher, which is one of the Waking the Dragon targets, which is absolutely insane. We've got Zeus, we've got Hope Harbinger, Titanic Galaxy, Neo Tachyon, number 107 Tachyon, number 23 Lancelot, Dark Knight of the Underworld, which is actually a pretty good one in this deck. So obviously it requires 2 level 8 monsters, so it is generic and it is easy to summon off of the fact that you would have a Bigfoot and a Thunderbird, or 2 of both, or 2 of one or 2 of the other to summon this card. So it's pretty easy. So the effect reads, excuse me. The effect reads: this card can attack your opponent directly while it has exceeds material. When this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you can target a face-up monster your opponent controls, destroy it. Once per turn during either player's turn, when a spell or trap is activated, when a spell, trap, or another monster's effect is activated, detach material from this card, negate the activation. So obviously you're not going to be doing that because of the fact that you already have the spell and trap negation of the effect of Cerulean Skyfire. You've got the monster negation of the effect of the awakening of the Sacred Beast, as well as the Cyber Dragon Infinity, and also the Tachyon and Neo Tachyon, plus the number 38 as well. So you don't need all that much card negation because you have those cards. So but this is in here just to try and pop monsters on the board, and to just push for game for the most part. Then to round up the Xyz monsters, we got Cyber Dragon Infinity, and the Link monsters we've got the Axis Code Talker, Underworld Guys of the Closed World, which is a nasty card in this deck because of its effect. You can also use one monster your opponent controls as material to link summon this card. So if you use, let's say just as an example, let's say you have Dogman, Thunderbird, Bigfoot, Chaos Summoning Beast, and let's say one of your opponent's monsters on board. You can use all 5, summon out Goddess, and you're pretty much good to go. But what you can also do is go Bigfoot, Unicorn, which I am running the Nightmares in this deck, plus one of your opponent's monsters, and you're good to go. Why? Because Unicorn is a Link 3, and you can just Link Climb into an Underworld Gods, which is pretty cool. Which is actually pretty cool. The effect also reads if this card is Link Summon, you can negate the effects of all face-up monsters your opponent currently controls. This Link Summon card is unaffected by your opponent's activated effects unless they target this card. Once per turn, when your opponent activates a card or effect that special summons a monster from the grave, negate the activation. This is basically Ghost Bell, but in the form of a Link monster, which is actually pretty cool. Speaking of the Nightmares, we got obviously the Nightmare can't speak. Yeah. We also have the Nightmare Unicorn, Phoenix, and Cerberus, obviously to not only pop special summon monsters, but also to pop back row and to bounce cards back into the deck, which is absolutely insane. And then to round up the extra deck, we've got Link Karibo because of the fact that we got the Chaos Summoning Beast being summoned from the graveyard off the effect of Spirit Gaze, and you can just summon Link Karibo from there, which is absolutely nuts. Moving on into the side deck. This side deck is mainly in here to go up against Kashtira, Runic, Melfi, and Tearlament, because Tearlament is actually still pretty viable in this format, but it's not as powerful as when the Shizu cards were all like at 3. So I've got 2 copies of Nibiru the Primal Being, 2 copies of Danger Mothman, which basically acts as a Dark World Dealings, which is pretty cool. 2 copies of Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. I also have 3 other Waking the Dragon targets in the form of Cyphering Lord Omega, Nightmare Griffin, and Decode Talker. 2 copies of Lightning Storm, 2 copies of Infinite Impermanence, and 2 copies of Zhang Hu to round up the entire deck. So again, guys, be sure to check out the full deck list. I'll be posting it on my Instagram about an hour or so after this video gets put up. So make sure you guys check it out. My Instagram ad will be in the description below, and that will do it for today's video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure you guys smash that thumbs up button. If you guys are new to the channel and you guys want more deck profiles in the future, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and follow me on all of my social media. My ads will be in the description below, as will the info to my fan mail. It will also be in the description as well. And on that, this is your boy Nash, signing out.